got so used to being the only woman in the room, I didn't even notice it anymore. Did you know that only 31% of sales leaders are women, even though 50% of the sales reps are women? I'm Amy Evans. After 25 years of sales leadership in corporate America, I help B2B tech and AI CEOs hit their number as a sales strategy advisor. I also host the Women in Sales Leadership podcast, where you'll learn what it takes to lead at the highest level, withstand the pressure to deliver the numbers, and elevate your career without losing yourself. No fluff, just the real stuff of women in sales leadership. If you aspire to become a CRO, vice president, first-time sales leader, or start your own business, you're in the right place. You are going to want to stop right now and click follow so you don't miss the episodes that drop every week. So, welcome to Women in Sales Leadership. I am so excited about today's guest. I'm going to confess right away that she's a friend of mine. So, and I'm so lucky that she's one of my friends. So let me introduce you to my friend, Alexis Hambrick. So Alexis is an absolute powerhouse in the world of media and marketing. As a vice president at Warner Brothers Discovery, she's led major growth initiatives, built high-performing teams, and driven strategies that fuel billions in revenue. She really knows what it takes to lead at a very high level. And today she's going to share her real story behind her incredible journey with you. So, Alexis, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for that wonderful welcome. I'm going to bring you everywhere to introduce me from now on.
No problem. I can do it. I would do it for you anywhere, anytime. Absolutely.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So, Alexis, I would love for everybody listening to get to learn a little bit more about you and hear more about your story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's see. I grew up in Massachusetts in a small town outside of Boston, right on the water. Had a very idyllic life growing up. When I went to college, I went to Union College in upstate New York in Schenectady. I decided that of all things, I was going to become a Russian major because at some point I was going to translate for the sick Russians. That was my plan in life, which I'm sure my parents were thrilled with. So I was also very independent and, tired of my small town, small school. So wanted to do something different. Did a term abroad in Moscow, which was really pretty great. Got to learn a lot about myself. A lot of independence, doing things on my own and exploring a city by myself in a language that, quite frankly, I never mastered. And then when junior year rolled around, all of my high-powered finance friends were starting to get internships and then subsequent jobs right after early senior year. And here I was like, well, shoot, what have I done? I got this Russian major, which I never really mastered, and here I am. So fortunately, I had a connection with a company called Turner at the time. My uncle worked, he was a cable guy. And so he helped me get an interview. He said, I can get you an interview at Turner. And I said, the salad dressing guy? I thought he meant Paul Newman,
Perfect.
So I went down to Turner in Atlanta. I interviewed and didn't get the job. I was actually told that the job had just been given to somebody, but come on down and interview anyway. And I was like, okay. But back then, AirTran gave $50 flights to students and said, sure, why not? So I met the woman who became a mentor of mine, and she called me and she said, the job's already been offered to somebody. I'll let you know if it falls through. And sure enough, about a week later, she called and she said, the person didn't accept the job and we would love to have you. So
Wow.
That was the start of my career. And that was 25, almost 26 years ago at Turner. And through a series of acquisitions and mergers, we became, I'm going to forget one of them, but we were Turner, we became Warner Media, and then we became ultimately Warner Brothers Discovery. So lots and lots and lots of changes over the 25 years, handling, starting off with brands like CNN and TNT and Cartoon Network, ultimately morphing into HBO and now Max, which is what I do now. So now I am the VP of Partner Marketing for Max, And I work with providers, distributors to help sell Macs on their platforms.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm just going to confess right now that Alexis is my friend that knows everything about pop culture and what's happening like in TV and on streaming, and she gets to rub shoulders with famous people. So she's very, very humble about it. But I have to say that you're the person that knows everything about what's going on in the streaming world. I love that about you.
Well, I mean, I'm so lucky. I do this really awesome, I get to be a part of this really awesome industry where it is part of pop culture. I mean, what is everyone talking about right now? Parker Posey in The White
Yes.
Lotus, right? And
Yes.
I was lucky enough to be a part of the junket where our distribution partners, people like Comcast and Apple, interviewed Parker Posey. And so I attended virtually. So it's really cool to be a part of those things. And I don't take any of it for granted.
Hey, I wanted to share something with you. I'm super excited about it. I'm hosting a masterclass for you, and the topic is going to be on elevating your career, getting yourself to the next level. It's totally free to join. It's going to be coming up in June. And for you, you have an opportunity to sign up to make sure you get on my early access list to join the masterclass. How do you get on the list? Really easy. There's going to be a link in the show notes wherever you're listening to or viewing this show from. So you can, number one, find the waitlist link, and you'll find the waitlist to masterclass link. Or if you're a LinkedIn person like I am, go find me on LinkedIn, Lynn Evans on LinkedIn.com. And you can find my waitlist link right there at the top of my profile. Easy, add your email address. It's simple. You'll get notified as soon as the masterclass is available. And I'm really excited to see you there.
It is such a blessing to be involved in such a fun industry.
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to ask all about like famous people that you've met, but we might save that to the end if we've got time. So, hey, just I might surprise you with that question. I'm warning you in advance about
All
this.
right, I'll have to start
Okay.
thinking of all the
Okay. Start
people.
thinking about that. So a couple things I noticed as you were describing your career journey. I heard you mention it. You said you had a mentor in your career, and what I have in speaking with the people that I coach and the executives that I consult with. Mentorship is almost always a theme, and then there's always people are really wanting more mentorship than they typically have. So I would like you to share for our listener, share about what your mentorship experience was about and what an impact that was for you in your career.
Well, I am a huge advocate of mentorship. It is something that is so very important to me, and I think it's so important to me because I've been so fortunate to have really great mentors in my past. And there's two kinds of mentors, right? There's the formal kind of mentor where it's a program that you're set up with a curriculum. Those are fantastic. I've been a part of those on both sides. But there's also informal mentors. And, some of my bosses I've considered my mentors, or people in a different department that, I ask out for coffee, and then that relationship just blooms over time and they start to get to know you and can give you some really great advice. I think that anyone that's lucky enough to have a mentor, especially early in their life, or have many of them, sort of have a responsibility to give back as they get older and become more of a leader to help guide some of these young women and men. I've had some men mentees, but typically for me, it's been women. And it's actually more fulfilling to me as a mentor, I think, than the mentees get out of it. There was a period of time where it just sort of fell off my radar, and um, for whatever reason, business priorities changed, and it wasn't as much of a focus, and I didn't have that, and I didn't even realize how much I missed it until it came back into my life, and I was like, oh, this is the piece that I've been missing. This is what I really love to do.
Yeah. You shared with me about a mentor that had a really big impact on you.
I've had a lot that have had a lot of
Yeah.
impacts, but I am probably thinking of Pat Filatico. Shout out to Pat, who helps run a mentorship program in Atlanta called Path Builders. And Path Builders was a program, it was a year-long mentorship program. So every month for a year, I met with Pat as a mentee, and she was outside of my industry. She, at the time, worked for IBM. And she also met with my boss to understand what were some of the challenges that I had. And I think what I shared with you is, as a young person growing up at Turner when I was 22, I was very self-deprecating. I was sort of apologetic coming into a meeting. I'm sorry, but I was the ditzy blonde. I was the punchline of a lot of jokes, and I liked it. I leaned into it. It didn't upset me or anything, but it became my brand. It became who I was. And so that was a roadblock for me in developing into a leader. And so Pat, after meeting with my boss at the time, Heather, they said to me that I need to own my power. And that, I think, is the single most important piece of advice that I have ever received in my career. And at the time, I was like, what does that mean? What
No
does own
kidding.
your power? I have no idea what that means. And they were like, well, we can't really explain it to you. You just sort of have to figure it out. I was like, okay. So it took a long time. It took about 6 months. But after a while, I said, oh, I get it. This is what they mean. I need to be rise to the occasion, have a stronger point of view, sit at the table, know that I can take up space and that what I have to say is valuable. And it was like a light switch after that. That was the turning point in my career. And it is definitely the piece of advice. Not everyone needs that advice, but a lot of women who are lacking in confidence, that's the piece of advice that they need.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. I know that all of us need that kind of mentorship. I need it right now today still, right? I still
I'll be your
use.
mentor.
I have coaches. I've got mentors. You can mentor me, Alexis. I would love that. I'd be honored. Um, and I appreciate what you shared about you feel like the people that you're a mentor for, that you feel like you get more out of the relationship.
Do, hands
That
down.
yeah. Say more about that.
I think, well, my most recent mentee, I won't mention her by name, but she was also in Path Builder. So it was a year-long program with her. And she came into the program sort of just bummed out. She wasn't being seen. She wasn't getting where she wanted to go. And just, after meeting her and seeing what she was going through together, we just developed a plan to gain more confidence and helped her realize how much value she brings and elevate her a little bit so that she was more of a viewed more as a strategic thinker rather than the doer. And gosh, she blossomed so much this past year. I mean, you could just see it. It was so wonderful to see. She even did a dance performance at the retreat, like a karaoke dance performance in front of the whole company. It was a requirement for like initiation, which sounds so strange to me, but
Huh. Okay.
yeah. So she did. I mean, it was amazing. And so just seeing that, and I know I had a small part of that. I knew that she did all the work, but seeing what she was able to accomplish just made me feel so great for her. So that's what I love.
Mm, I hear you. I absolutely get that. Yeah. There is something about bringing and sharing your gifts and your journey with others who are young, who just almost everybody I know did need a little encouragement,
Yeah.
right? Somebody to have faith in them
Yep.
and to say, hey, look, I see your gifts. I see it right there in front of you. And if, you could just kind of let go of some things that are keeping that you from seeing it, then the minute you can appreciate that for yourself, then you're just going to be even more unstoppable than
Yeah.
you
It's
already are
amazing
today.
how much we can see that, and people could see in me that I couldn't see in myself. And there's another woman who was also really amazing. She's incredibly smart, like had her master's from Columbia, I think. And she was just painfully shy, so shy that she would break out into hives when she started talking in front of a group. And so we started working together. And you'll hear me say, one of my big things is visibility. You've got to be
Mm,
visible. And I don't want to be annoying, like, you have to keep your camera on, but seriously, keep your camera on because that's how people know who you are. And my other thing was always, if you're going to start, if you're starting a meeting series, you've got to say something the first or second meeting. Otherwise, you become the girl who never says anything, right? And then it gets harder and harder to say something. So, in working with this one woman who was so shy and she had her camera off all the time, she was also stunningly gorgeous. I'm like, can you not use this to your benefit? Like, have your camera on. You are so pretty. And so after some time, she kept her camera on and she started saying something in the beginning that was organic, not forced. And over time, you could see that she finally was like chiming in on the conversation. She was bringing her point of view. She had opinions. People started asking her. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing to see. All she needed was that encouragement and that push.
I love it. I love it. I'd be curious to know, I bet the I bet I can like feel the question that the people listening right now would have is, I bet they're going to start looking up your group Pathfinders that you've
It
mentioned a couple
should.
of times. Yeah. And then the other thing is, for somebody to Alexis, for somebody who's not doesn't have a mentor today and isn't quite sure how to go about it, or wants to think about doing that, what recommendations would you have?
Oh, here's the thing. People want to be sought after. They want, like, no, if you were to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, I'd love to meet with you," people think that that person's like too busy or they don't want to help or, why would they want to meet with me? No. If someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to get to know you," I would love that. That is so flattering. And I don't know anybody that would not have time for somebody. So I would say, here's what I would say actually. So when I talk about networking is really important to me, and I think about it in three circles. I'm sure somebody taught me this, but if you think about that inner circle, that's your board of directors, right? So that's the people that would go to bat for you no matter what. You want strong connections in there. Those are your people. Those are like when they say, Alexis is up for the promotion, they say, "Oh, she's amazing. We want her," right? Then you've got this outer circle, and these are the people that are like acquaintances that they like you, but they're probably not going to like go to bat for you, right? But they like you. And then you've got this outer ring of people that don't really like you, don't really care about you, whatever. So let them go. But the people on the inside, those are the ones in the second rung that I would cultivate, and I would try to get to start a mentoring relationship. And it's as easy as saying, "Hey, I'd love to get to know a little bit more about your background." And networking is so important. You have to do it when you don't need it. If you do it
Mm,
when you need it, you just reek of desperation. Nobody wants to meet with you when you're just looking for a job. But if it's really organic and authentic, and it's just, "Hey, I'd love to learn a little bit more and about you." And then if it feels good, if it feels natural, then it's, "I really enjoyed this conversation. Could we meet again?" And then it just can develop from there. Or you could be completely honest and say, "I'm looking for a mentor. Would you be open to that?" You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree. And I love that. I love that encouragement to be fearless about it. Um, I think that's correct for the people who are in a position to mentor you. They are likely not too busy, or even if they are, they may know somebody really awesome who would have time to
Absolutely.
spend with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they might have someone on their team who's looking to develop their mentorship skills. It might not be them, but they might have someone else that it would be a win-win for both of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, I think I said this earlier. I think mentorship isn't just for the, people who are early in your career. I think mentorship continues on as we're all going to be going through continued changes. We're at different life stages. We are still encountering things that are new, and all of us are growing. You are growing, and having the voice of a person that's been there before as a guide who is just third party, selflessly being helpful to you, right?
And you can see things a little differently that you can't see.
Yeah.
They're going to see that, oh, there's that girl that you think is your best friend, but she's clearly being competitive with you, and maybe you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
Like they'll see things for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I also spoke about, and I think this is a topic that you could spend a lifetime figuring out how to do the right way. Or maybe there's not a right way, but like more of it and properly. Um, and that is delegation. You told me that you feel that you have figured out things that work for you for delegation.
Much to my team's dismay, I have.
Well,
No, I remember when I was a young, I was in a program called, like, I think it was called Rising Leaders or something, and I went to this program and I said, I just can't figure out how to delegate. I don't know how to do that, and no one really could tell me how. It's again, I think delegation is one of those things that you have like an aha moment, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got this, and I'm sure there's 1,000 books on delegating, and but I don't know that you ever really know how to do it until you do it and it feels right. So yeah, that was something that I struggled with early in my career, and I fortunately got really good at really fast, so quickly that the people on my team turned my name into a verb and started saying, "Oh, I got handbricked,"
what
in a
would that
very
what,
loving
what would
way.
that mean if someone said they got handbricked? What are they talking about?
That means I told them to do something for me. So I just dumped a bunch of junk on their table, on their desk, probably.
Yeah. Have you in your learning how to delegate, have you found some things that worked like didn't work so well in
I always
experimenting
had
and
a
learning?
rule that, okay, so you know how people have like to-do lists, and
Yeah.
there are some people who love a to-do list, and they'll just write on the to-do list to have the to-do list, right? My rule of thumb was always like, if you can do it in 5 minutes, just do it. Take care of it.
Mhm.
Don't spend your time putting it on the list. But for those things that do have to go on the list, I think that you're also, getting help gives a couple things. It gives someone else a chance to do something, to step up. And it also, expands the way that it could be done. I could do it this way, but maybe so and so on my team might do it this way. If you're going to delegate, you also have to be okay with that, and you lose control, which is very hard for control freaks, which I can be. So you have to be
Me too.
okay with
Yeah.
doing it the other way, letting your friends do it or your team do it. But yeah.
Yeah. I one of the things I think I went to like a 2-day long leadership training. And there was one thing, and if you spend 2 days in a leadership training and get one thing, maybe it's worth it, because this is the one thing I got, and it was on delegating, and the question to ask yourself for control freaks like me,
Me too.
right? To help identify if something can be delegated, and the question that I learned in that training was, "Am I the only person who can do this?"
Right.
Yeah. And if the answer is yes, then hello, I need to be the one doing it. If the answer is no, then it's time to find somebody else who can do it. Yeah.
For sure. And another way to look at that is you sit down and you figure out your hourly rate. How much is the company paying
Mm.
you per hour, right? So
Ooh.
say it's $100 per hour. Is this task worth $100 an hour, or is this really worth $70 an hour, right? Like,
Mhm.
how much is this task worth? And then when you
Put that
start
that
thinking
way.
about that, it can make you feel badly for not delegating. Like, why am I spending the time on this if this company's paying me for that?
I love that. I love that. Um, so I'm gonna a couple more questions for you. And one of them is, okay, uh, is there beyond the networking and the mentorship, or is there anything else that you would share with, talk to my listener, Alexis? Like, what would you share giving advice to someone who's earlier in their career, or maybe even at a point where they're not early in their career, but they're ready to start growing again?
Mhm.
What comes to mind to you of something you would say to keep
I
in
would
mind?
say that you don't have to grow within your career to keep growing. I think community service and just community support, whatever it looks like, doing things in your community can really help you grow in ways that are even bigger than you could at work because you're given bigger responsibility, tasks or jobs that are outside of your current scope where you can really develop those skills. I also think that that's a great place to practice leadership because oftentimes if you're volunteering, you're given a seat at the table that you might be at the seat at the table with CEOs or people from other organizations who you're all equals then. You're all the same level and your idea is worth the same as the CEO or the head of a foundation or something else from this other group. And so it builds that confidence and it helps you understand that you do have great ideas and you do have value to bring, even if you're not able to show that at your current role in your current job. Those are great opportunities, and also they're really fun to be involved with your community. It's another thing that fills you up. You feel like you're giving back, and I think I can't say enough good things about being involved in your community. That I was on a board in Atlanta that I loved. I'm sure you went to events with me for I think 8 years. It was called Horizons Atlanta that served underserved children. It was a summer learning program, and it was just such a great experience because I was on the board with the heads of schools from all these private schools and all these foundations and big corporations. And eventually I was probably like 33 and well, I'm definitely doing the math wrong if I said 8 years. So I was a little bit older than that, but I was the head of the executive committee. So, I had a big role on this board and I was young. And so with really influential people around Atlanta, it was an awesome opportunity.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I think that's an absolute hidden gem of
Hmm.
opportunity for growth, development, and you're going to meet some really amazing people. And of course, most importantly, the fulfillment of bringing something back to the community. All
Yeah.
right. So I warned you I was going to do this. I feel like I have to now because I set everybody's expectations. I was going to ask about this. So, do you have some like favorite celebrities that you've met or rubbed shoulders with?
Well, since we were living in a virtual world, I
Right.
haven't been in person with many, but I'm on virtual junkets a lot.
Yeah.
One that I loved, and of course she didn't meet me. I was a lurker in the background, but just watching. But somebody who I was so impressed with was Jodie Foster.
Wow.
She was just she plays a lot of darker roles, and so the face that you're seeing is sort of like just a darker role. I don't know how to describe it, but she was so bright and happy, and her eyes were sparkling, and she's smiling, and I was like, "This is amazing." This is the side of her that you don't see in the movies as much, and she was just this really positive ray of light, and I really loved seeing her. She was great. Um,
So cool.
yeah,
Anything
I'm trying
else?
to think. I don't know. I have to think some more, but these junkets are really fun to participate in because I'm a fly on the wall in these interviews, and then when they turn the cameras off, then they're just talking with their staff, which is always very kind and benign. Nothing's weird, but it's just neat to see people, in their own environment.
Love it. I love it. Well, Alexis, you have been speaking of kind and sparkling. I'm so grateful for the time that you spent today and for this really excellent insight and advice that you have for anybody who is curious about how do they continue to grow, how do you continue to develop and learn how to become more comfortable and confident in delegating. So thank you so much for joining today. It was such an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us and share this with a friend. I'm serious. Stop right now and take a look at the app, whatever app you're using to listen to this episode on, and hit follow and Share this with a friend. Send them a text. See if they would enjoy this show as well, learning all about and meeting women in sales leadership. Hey, and if you know somebody who is crushing it in sales leadership and should be on this show, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Amy Evans, or the Women in Sales Leadership podcast. I would love to connect. See you next time.